The Saints traded up in the 2023 NFL Draft on day 3 to acquire Fresno State quarterback Jake Haener. It might have seemed like a weird move to some. It might have been whatever to others, and they might have just said, who cares? He'll be out of the league. But this could be the pick that if things work out in a favorable way for the Saints, we could look back and say, man, that really turned out to be one of the steals of the draft. And I'll explain it right here on the Straight Up Saints podcast.
You're listening to the Straight Up Saints podcast.
What is up, Who Dat Nation? Welcome back inside another video from the Straight Up Saints podcast, brought to you by Scott Haener Injury Lawyers. If you've been injured in any kind of accident, car, truck, 18-wheeler, or hurt offshore, Scott Haener handles it all. You can give him a call at 504-500-1111 for a free consultation. So I mentioned it, Jake Haener in the 4th round. Saints trade up to get him from Fresno State. And some people might have said, why did they need a quarterback? They got Derek Carr. They kept Jameis Winston. And what I tell you with that pick is that is smart front office thinking. This pick may not work, and we'll get into that in just a second. This pick could end up just being a waste when it's all said and done. But what I love about it is the forward thinking that it shows from the Saints front office. Because remember, as Drew Brees was getting down those tail end years of his career, and we all appreciate it, and you know that time's dwindling and you're just trying to enjoy every moment, at the same time, you're starting to go, man, there isn't a succession plan in place. And the one thing I think that could have been done differently during that time, and I know hindsight's 2020, but this is more so of a logical statement than it is a hindsight type of thing. The Saints didn't do a good enough job of bringing in a bunch of young quarterbacks while Drew Brees was there and hoping, hey, maybe something clicks and maybe they learn it and they can become that heir apparent, or maybe they can just hold down the fort, or maybe they can just become a serviceable backup quarterback in the league. What the Saints do by bringing in Jake Haener means he gets to sit. Doesn't even have to, he most likely, bearing a catastrophe, does not have to play next season because you have Derek Carr and you have Jameis Winston. You have 2 veteran quarterbacks. One is your Pro Bowl starter. The other one should be one of the top-end backups in the league in Jameis. Jake Haener probably does not see the field in terms of starting reps, which is good news because it gives him time to sit behind those 2 quarterbacks, learn the ropes, and if it clicks, all of a sudden, who knows, maybe this kid ends up starting. But it's not even about that. Like I said, it's the forward-thinking process of it. It's the fact that the Saints sat there and thought, let's get a quarterback in the building, a young guy with potential, while Derek Carr is holding down the fort for the next 2, 3, maybe even 4 years of that contract that he has. And I think that's just tremendous thinking from the Saints. And that's the type of stuff you need to do if you're going to win in this league and you're going to sustain winning in this league. You know, not every team has the luxury of going from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers. And even then, Packers did a good job of using resources because if Jordan Love hits, again, that's a 1st-round pick, so it's to a higher extreme, the Packers are going to feel good about having this seamless transition at the most important position in sports. So the Saints bring in Jake Haener. It's not costing you an awful lot. It's a day 3 pick, and you're hoping that this kid can just turn out to be something. And for people saying, when does it happen? There are 2 quarterbacks that played last year that were day 3 picks that turned out to have some really nice moments. The first one, obviously, we know was Brock Purdy. Mr. Irrelevant turned out to be very relevant, and seems to be the starting quarterback for the 49ers as long as he's healthy. The other guy who doesn't get as much talk, and I get why, because it's to a lesser degree, didn't play off that much, and people will say it wasn't as exciting, will be Bailey Zappi, who was a 4th-round pick, who did really well when he played for New England last year, and honestly wouldn't shock me if him and Mac Jones are competing for the starting job this offseason, with Mac winning it, but Bailey pushing him. And these are the type of picks you make, these guys with experience, these leaders in college who are highly efficient, highly accurate, and process really well. That's something that Brock did well in college. It's something that Jake Haener did well in college. And that stuff matters to me. And I think for Jake Haener, there's certain things that you can't teach. You can't teach a guy at that college level completing 72% of his passes. You can't. You are born with being it, especially when you are throwing with anticipation, throwing with, not having to see the guy open, throwing them open. That matters. It really does matter, because I'll go back to a player who I'm not trying to rip him at all. I just think you could see it. When the Saints drafted Ian Book, it felt like a struggle. It felt like he had to see the guy open, then he would throw it. For Jake Haener, he's going to see it well before the route even fully matures. And that's an important thing. Efficiency-wise, the kid takes care of the football. 20 touchdowns, 3 picks last year. uber important to take care of the football, and he does that. And I love that about him. I think he's a gamer. I think you want everything in the quarterback position. He's got that. I love how he can play out of structure if he needs to. The concern, the height, the weight. How does he handle it? When you get hit by big defensive linemen, how do you adjust to that? So I don't know if this pick's going to turn out to something. It very well could be nothing. But I love that the Saints sat here and said, you know what? We like the player. We like the time to get him in here. The time is right. He can sit behind Derek Carr. He can learn a little bit. And this could end up being a scratch-off lottery ticket that wins you a couple $1,000 that you weren't expecting. You said, screw it. I'm spending my $2. It might hit. If not, it was $2. That's how I view the day 3 pick of Jake Haener. That's how I view it. If this thing works out, you look like the biggest geniuses in the room. If it doesn't work out, guess what? You can go take another quarterback on day 2 or day 3 if you want in future years. And that could end up working for you. So I love the idea to do that. And it's not so much about the player, although I do love the player. I really do. I think there's a lot to like about Jake Haener. I don't think it's a Garrett Grayson. I don't think it's an Ian Book situation. I think this is actually a good football player at the collegiate level. Now it's about figuring it out and making sure he can end up being a pro quarterback. And we'll see. But I'm really excited to see how he develops. I'm sure there'll be Saints fans that are intrigued by what he does in training camp, how preseason goes, and how he does with more reps. So we'll see how this goes. But again, it's the thought that matters. I know it sounds weird, but I promise you it is. The Saints are no longer going, well, we signed Derek Carr. We can just chill at the quarterback. No, they say, we got Derek Carr. Let's get another guy in the building now. And maybe it could be Derek Carr handing the baton to another Fresno State quarterback if everything else goes well. And if not, like I said, back to the drawing board. But they're thinking the right way, and I got to give them credit for that. So I'm curious what you guys think about that pick. Do you love the idea of the Saints getting a young quarterback in the building while they got their veteran guys in Carr and Winston there at the spot? And as always, guys, make sure to stay tuned for more content for the Straight Up Saints podcast and subscribe to the Boot Crew Media YouTube page because we will be dropping more heat like this in the upcoming days.